This is a new Pyro series wireless transmitter kit from Hollyland, and we're gonna get it all set up together for the first time, and hopefully it's simple and easy to do. We're gonna find out. Let's dive in. The first thing I did when I got these out of the box was screw the antennas on top of each of the transmitter and receivers. And then I threw a Sony NPF battery on the back of each of them. And it doesn't come with Sony NPF batteries in the kit, but if you do video work like I do, there's a good chance you already have a bunch of these laying around. Let's get it connected to my camera now. And what I'm using today for this is the Sony FX6 with just a simple V-mount battery on the back. And then on the front here, we've got the Sony 24 to 70 millimeter G Master Series 2 lens. That's it. I'm not having any other big attachments or anything on this to get this set up. I'm keeping it pretty simple. With this kit, you get the Pyro S transmitter and receiver. And this has HDMI input and SDI input, as well as HDMI out and SDI out. So for right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up the transmitter unit on the Sony FX6, and we're gonna set this one aside for a moment. We're gonna get this set up on top of the camera with the little cold shoe mount adapter that comes in the Hollyland kit. So just throw this on top. And now let's get this thing plugged in to HDMI. Because I have a V-mount battery system on here, I'm actually going to remove this, and then we're gonna use the cable that comes with the kit. So this is just a locking barrel connector to D-tap. So let's get this plugged in, and then we'll run this back to my D-tap port. Power it up, and it's showing by default that it's on channel 8. Let's also pull the plastic on the little LCD here. Nice. And right now my camera settings are set to 4K, 60 frames per second. Now, what makes this transmitter stand apart is that it can actually transmit in 4K resolution and receive in 4K resolution, which is pretty amazing because most transmitters right now only support 1080p, including every transmitter I've used in the past. I've used a ton of Hollyland transmitters over the years. They've all been great, but all of them that I've used have only been able to do 1080p. So it's amazing that now they can support up to 4K resolution. But it's worth mentioning that it can only receive and output 4K transmission with the Pyro S series. If you transmit it to the Pyro 7, which is what we're gonna be doing, it does downscale it to 1080p. Now that we have the transmitter set up properly, let's take a look at the receiver we're gonna be using. And this is the Pyro 7 monitor with a transmitter and receiver built into it. And look at this thing, it's really, really cool. Very sleek design, and of course I've got the dual grips mounted onto it on each side, and right now I have it set up in the director's monitor configuration. So this is really for a field monitor, someone that needs to see exactly what's going on, or a focus puller. They could mount a focus puller control handle on this side and do really great remote focus pulling with this. I've done a ton of different director's monitor setups in the past, but it's always just the monitor, then you have a receiver, then you've got like a V-mount battery, and all these other things you have to use to get it configured. But this is amazing because they have all of it just built directly into it. Okay, it looks like it takes a minute or so to power up. Okay, it says no video. Okay, it looks like it's on channel 5 by default. So I'm gonna go into the settings here. It looks like there's channel 5, wireless. This is pretty cool. This is like, looks really, really easy to understand. I'm just gonna select channel 8, because that's what our transmitter is on. And let's see if the signal pops in. Got a green check mark. Still says no video. So, oh, okay. It's because the mode is set into transmitter. We are gonna use this as a receiver right now so we can actually view the signal. So I'll tap receiver. It looks like you have to reboot when you switch from transmitter to receiver mode. There we go. Haha, okay, success. We've got the camera signal now coming in from my Sony FX6 to the field monitor. So this can receive the input of 4K, which is what it is receiving, but to the Pyro 7, it's getting a 1080p resolution. So let's double check this really quick. And I'm going to grab the receiver for the Pyro S. So we're getting 4K 29.9 now on this. So just to confirm that this is a 4K wireless transmitter, it is transmitting the signal from here to here in 4K with the Pyro S system. It's actually really cool because this one transmitter, if you put it into broadcast mode, it can go out to 4 receivers, which is really cool. So we're already doing 2 right here. You could add 2 more. And you could also do 2 mobile devices using the HoloView app. And you can see that the monitor is kind of blowing out on camera because this thing gets really bright, gets up to 1200 nits brightness, which is really great. Really, really good for outdoor viewing and incredibly easy to see. Now, if you're in direct sunlight, it may be hard to see sometimes, even with 1200 nits brightness. So they do include a sun hood, and this is pretty cool. So I'm gonna throw this on and show you what that looks like. And then I'll show you just opening this little hood up. And then these parts are magnetic, should go to the side. And there we go, check this thing out. That is so cool, just how small and compact this is. And I can imagine just viewing this out in the field, handing this off to people to show them what's going on. I love that. And when you're done with it, you can just fold this in and drop this down. And look at that, it's completely flush. So if you tap on the little battery icon up here in the top right, that brings up all these different settings. So I'm gonna go to display and brightness. There we go. It's at 100% right now. And I can turn it all the way down to 0%. All right, so now I've got it set to 30% brightness so it doesn't blow out on the camera, and that looks good. So there's a bunch of other settings in here, all of your wireless settings, which we were just setting up. We've got the display, system settings. So it looks like you can turn on the fan. You can set it to auto or low. You can change the language, set up some shortcuts, change the volume here. Right now it's at 50%. I'm actually gonna turn it down all the way because I don't like to hear audio coming out of my monitor because it causes an echo if there's a microphone picking it up. On the back, we have a standard 3.5mm headphone jack that you could just plug directly into if you need to hear the audio. Just tap the screen and you can see the row of tools come up here across the bottom. So very, very cool, easy to turn them on and off. Here we've got waveforms, got vector scopes, we have just a standard histogram. You've got zebras. You also have false color. You can also import LUTs. So if you are shooting in log or a flat picture profile, that's really easy to do. It actually comes with a little SD card. Doesn't come out with the handle on. Could make a small adjustment, is making it so that the SD card can come in and out with the handle installed, but not really a big deal. Let's see if it has pinch to zoom. Okay, I'm not seeing any pinch to zoom or double tapping. A lot of monitors have that. Let's see if I go into 2 times. Okay, so I can move this little box around to see around. Okay, we've got different aspect ratios. This looks like an anamorphic squeeze. Okay, we've got mirroring, flipping, depending on which way you've got the monitor mounted. So this looks like the settings for each of those that we just looked at. For instance, zebra pattern, you can set up when zebras at which IRE. So you can just move this slider along and adjust where it's actually going to zebra. We can see the 3D LUTs. You can set up to 5 LUTs. You can import them here. So really, really cool just how easy and simple this is to do. Aspect ratio. So if you want to do 1:1, 2:3:5, you know, your classic widescreen. Let's go back to 16:9. Anamorphic modes. So we've got 1.66, which is great for some of the Sirui lenses, 1.8, and of course 2 times. So you can see that how you can just tap transmitter or receiver. So you can change how this monitor is being used. You can change the channels, you can scan, you can set up pairings, you can do different groups for your transmitters, the display brightness, and it's interesting because you can actually change it individually based on RGB brightness. Looks like we've got a lock icon here. So your touchscreen gets locked, you don't accidentally change any settings. There is a little record button here. So I'm actually now recording the signal from my Sony FX6 directly into the SD card here. And it is at that 1080p resolution because that's what the Pyro 7 does. I don't know that you would always want to use this as an external recorder, but pretty cool that that's an option. So let's stop recording. Okay, that's cool. I can see it. I can scrub along. All right, now you can see all the inputs and outputs across the bottom on the back here. So if you don't want to power this off of 2 Sony NP-F batteries that are actually hot swappable, so if one dies, you can throw another new one on there. You can plug this, of course, directly into power. So it has DC input here, which is a locking connector, really nice to have. And then you have SDI loop in and out, as well as HDMI, full-size HDMI loop in and out. And then of course you have the 3.5mm headphone jack, and then you have the USB-C port, which is actually pretty cool because you can use this for connecting directly to a computer and doing live streaming. Now on the bottom we have a standard 1/4-20 thread, which is what I'm using to mount it onto this light stand. And then we just have one 1/4-20 thread on each side of the monitor. And you could of course use that to mount other accessories besides these handles that come with it. And now let's look at the top of the monitor finally. There's an on and off switch right here, so we can just power this thing down. And then you have your F1 and F2, so function buttons, so that you can set up different displays if you want different settings for quickly swapping between them. Now let's take a closer look at the Pyro S transmitter and receiver units. And because they're basically identical, I'm just going to show you the receiver model because the transmitter is of course mounted on my FX6 back here. They're really identical, except one says receiver on it and one says transmitter, and the badge is red. So of course you got this LCD display on the front showing that it's channel 8 and also showing that we're getting 4K 29.9 resolution. So it's actually receiving that. Then you can see a couple other things here like your battery indicator, a signal. This is in group A. So if you want to get into more of the settings here, you just hold down this center button. You can scan automatically for the transmitter if you don't know what channel it's on. You've got your group pairing, fan, system settings. Now, if you want to quickly change the channel, you can go to auto and that's going to find it. Or you can just click through it like this, channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But very, very simple, easy to navigate through. Show you the different options we have here on the side. So of course you have your on-off switch, USB-C, and your power input, which is locking connector. Now on the transmitter model, it's an HDMI in and an SDI in. And then on the bottom here, you have a standard 1/4-20 thread for mounting it onto your camera or a stand or whatever. Now let's talk about a couple of the technical specs of the transmitters and receivers. So this uses something really unique. It's actually dual band. It uses 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz for transmission. So it uses what they call auto dual band hopping. So depending on which signal is the most clear with the least interference, it'll actually hop between the two so that you always have a reliable and clear transmission. The range on the transmission system is also really, really good. It's actually 1,200 feet or 400 meters for both the Pyro S system or the Pyro 7. So you can really rest assured that, no matter how far away you get, I mean, obviously, if you're a mile away, that's not really gonna work, but up to 1,200 feet, which is pretty great distance, you're still gonna be able to see what you're shooting. So I can imagine even using this in car shooting scenarios. And of course, you want really good low latency, especially if you're doing something like focus pulling. It has a 0.05 millisecond latency. So really good industry standard low latency there. These are built of a magnesium alloy. So they say that they're better for heat distribution, so they don't get as hot as normal aluminum, so they have better cooling, and all of them actually have cooling fans built into them. So on both the transmitter and receiver, in the Pyro 7 monitor, they all have cooling fans built into them so that they stay cool, they don't overheat. Now, when it comes to pricing, I was actually really shocked when I saw how much this thing costs, because I thought it was gonna be way more expensive than it is, because you get a full transmitter and receiver, and then you get another dual transmitter receiver 7-inch monitor with grips, and then a really nice hard shell traveling case to put it all inside of. I could not believe that you get this entire kit for only $900. That's pretty amazing, because I've seen transmitters, especially 4K transmitters, that you just get the transmitter and receiver for over $1,000, and that's it. So we've looked at how this can be used as a director's monitor, but I want to quickly show you how you can use this directly on the camera itself as your basic monitor and use it as a transmitter. So let's get that set up really quickly. All right, now we have just the monitor with no handles on it, and we're going to mount it on top here using that same cold shoe mount that Hollyland gives you. Okay, looks like it might be a bit too heavy for this mount. That's not a problem because I'm using a V-mount battery, so I'm gonna remove these. And let's use this same cable that I was using to power up the transmitter. There we go. So now we've got this thing powered up, running SDI, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on, make sure that this thing actually works with the D-tap cable, which it looks like it does. It's powering on. And because we're mounting this on the camera now, I'm no longer using it as the receiver. It's now gonna be the transmitter. So we've got to change that setting, which you could tap here, and then mode, I'm gonna go to transmitter, hit yes, and then it's going to reboot the unit. The camera can record in 4K, but your output over SDI or HDMI to the Pyro 7 specifically needs to be in 1080p. So now that I have it in 1080p, of course, I can see everything here. So really, really cool that I can use this as my monitor now. I'm gonna actually stand up and show you what this might look like if you're hand holding this. There you go. Big 7-inch display, 1200 nits brightness. And it saves a little bit of weight on your camera rig because you don't also have to have a transmitter. Normally, I'm running an external monitor with a wireless transmitter as well. I'd have it mounted usually about here. But because it's all built into one, that's really nice. That's super convenient. All right, there we go. They're both on channel 1, and this is getting 1080p, 30 frames per second. So just like that, didn't take any extra setup or anything like that. These two are paired. It does come with a spare antenna in case you lose one or break one, so that's nice to have. And we have, of course, the really nice hard carrying case that it comes with. So this is awesome because it's all form-fitted to put the different devices in here. So what are the cons of the Pyro S and Pyro 7 units? Well, because I've just started testing them and using them, I honestly haven't found any yet. And normally I find something kind of right off the bat, something that feels a little bit cheap or that I could tell they skipped out on. But honestly, I haven't seen anything like that. These are really, really quality built products. But this has been a bit of a setup and first hands-on look at this kit, so I'll make an update video in the future as I use them more. If you're interested in picking up this Pyro series kit or any of these units by themselves, definitely check out the links down below. I want to say a special thanks to Hollyland for sending this kit out for review. They didn't pay me to say any of this. All right guys, I'll see you in the next video.